Hello, everybody. Self-Care Samantha here, and today we're going to talk about how I cured my migraines. Okay, migraines. Talking about curing migraines. I had a pretty good lunch from Hyper. All right, migraines. So about 12 years ago, I had chronic migraines. And the only reason I wasn't technically diagnosed with that was because the doctor told me that because I wasn't sick 7 days a week and only 6, I didn't count as chronic. Isn't that interesting? And what also is interesting is that apparently 2/3 of women tend to experience migraines. So 1/3 of migraineurs are men. Now, let's quickly discuss what is a migraine, okay? A migraine is not a headache. Let's be really clear about that. A headache is a symptom of a migraine, but a migraine is a full body nervous system attack. It hurts like hell. It feels like you got hit by a truck, feels like you're having a stroke, feels like someone is, hurting you in the head with an ice pick repeatedly, and it follows this very specific nerve path. It's called the trigeminal nerve, I think is how you say it. And it kind of starts around the eye and it goes like this. Any of you who have experienced a migraine, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then it feels like this whole quarter of your head is going to explode repeatedly. And it's just awful. It's awful. Okay. There are some theories like that this is called the off your life symptoms because it's so painful that you want to end it all, honestly. And I experienced that. Like, it was brutal what I was going through. 16 hours sometimes of just dry heaving because my vagus nerve was so closed up that all I could do was I couldn't keep water down. It was crazy, guys. It was nuts. And I was so cranky and I was so sick and I was so sad all the time. But I was trying to figure it out and I knew I didn't want to live like that, okay? So I took note. I was looking around me and I'm like, why is it that other people are not going through this? And when I would meet somebody who did get migraines and I knew they were actually getting migraines and not mistaking the word for headache, I'd be like, well, how often does that happen to you? And they'd be like, oh, like only once a month or only a couple times a year or only when I eat this one thing or only when I'm really stressed out or travel and the plane does it to me. I'm like, how come then I'm getting them 6 and 7 days out of the week? It's so weird, So I started asking for help. And I live in Canada, so that really matters because what people think is the Canadian healthcare system and what is the Canadian healthcare system is drastically different. Okay, you still need insurance here. You still have to have backup for yourself. And I couldn't afford the help, okay, literally. So all I can do is go to the doctor because that's what my taxes pay for. But the treatments that they were offering me, I literally was going into debt for, okay? So the first thing I ever got was a migraine pill that had a 50% success rate if you took it upon the very first sign that you were possibly getting a migraine. So even if you don't know if you're getting a migraine, they tell you to take it. And it comes with 7 to 10 days of side effects. And the first side effect of that migraine pill is migraine. Can you fucking believe that? God, I was so mad. I'm still mad about that. Anyways, this was about 12 years ago. Okay. So I decided that wasn't good enough for me. And I told the doctor, I'm like, this isn't helpful. It's making me more sick. It doesn't make any sense. And he says, well, I don't know why you want to see a specialist. They're just going to give you the same pills that I'm going to give you. And I said, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And I'm like, how come other people seem to be okay and I'm not? And he's like, oh, that's just the way you are. One of these. Anyway, so I took it upon myself to figure out what is going on. Okay. I called a specialist myself to ask questions. And they told me the only way I'd ever get an appointment with a specialist was through a referral, which my current doctor at the time was not willing to give me. So they told me to go to the ER and that I would be a waste of space in the ER because a migraine is not considered an emergency and that they would give me the referral. So that's what I did. Okay. When I got the referral, they told me it'll take 6 months for them to call you to make the appointment. And then you'll probably get your appointment a year after that. So 18 full months without no help ahead of me. Well, I'm not going for another 18 months like this. Okay. So what I did from there was I started studying. I started studying, which led me to taking data, okay, on myself specifically for triggers, because that was the first thing I actually thought was the root cause. I thought, okay, well, if I can remove these trigger things, well, then maybe that's all it is, right? So I noticed that I was incredibly sensitive to fragrance, which I still am 12 years later. The smell of cigarettes, for example, sugar, like too much sugar, like I can have a cookie, that's fine, but if I have 3 cookies, I'm going to be sick for sure. Okay. So I took so much data and I started adjusting. Okay, buying better groceries, never buying sugar, said no to the cookies. I avoided people who smoke cigarettes. I stopped buying anything, with fragrance in it. Um, and went completely non-fragrance, as natural as possible. And I was still getting migraines many, many days a week. And I hated it. It's like I couldn't make plans with anybody. I was constantly anticipating that I was going to have a migraine instead of being able to enjoy my life. And it was terrible. Like my quality of life was zero, minus zero. It was awful. So I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out on my own. So I studied and I studied and I studied. And lo and behold, I started to realize through studying that the root cause and the trigger are completely different things. Okay, so root cause is not a trigger. Okay, cause, not a trigger. Now, you might think, duh, but I didn't know that 12 years ago, and there might be somebody on this video who didn't know that either. So my gift to you, friends, because that was life-changing, just figuring that out, okay? So now I have a new situation. A root cause has to come up. I'm not really sure how to determine that. So I started thinking, where does stress come from in my life? And I had a very stressful life, to be honest. I grew up stressed out and I remained in survival mode forever. And that survival mode is stress, like literally, like you're anticipating that you have to fight for everything, that your nervous system is ready to like, over hyper drive constantly and everything is like, and it's like, it's terrible. It's a terrible way to live, honestly. Okay. So I started really questioning, like, what's going on here? Why do I have this stress? I'm no longer living in the household that stressed me out the most. I lived on my own. I had a pretty good job, even though I didn't really like it. And I was like, what's the problem? Well, that was the problem. Okay. However, it stemmed from way back. Okay. So we're going to get a little vulnerable here and I'm going to tell you some things that happened in my life. When I was a little girl, I went to a doctor, and this was the 80s, and I was left alone with that doctor, and he hurt my body in a very unacceptable way that these words are not allowed on YouTube, but you can probably guess. It had to do with his being a man and me being a little girl. Okay, that's as far as I can go. So imagine the stress that just put into my nervous system as a little girl. Then I lived with very crazy parents, with a very chaotic household where there was violence and alcoholism and drug use and insanity and just totally bananas. Okay. Then I got a little bit older and I turned into a drug addict and I was super stressed out. I was wavering back and forth from pretty much being homeless, like sleeping on people's couches, to finally getting a place. I experienced so much abuse from my childhood into my boyfriends. It was awful. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how I lived through any of that. So no wonder I ended up with a ton of migraines, because my body couldn't handle any bit of stress anymore, because I'd never relieved any stress in my entire life. So remember, I went to a specialist asking for help that was going to take 18 months, okay? Months. So in that interim of time, 18 months, a year and a half, I started really observing different modalities on how to help myself. So hopefully this doesn't get off YouTube. The first thing I did was I started microdosing psilocybin. Oh, hear my cat. 1 second. Come on in, Mama. You want to say hi to everyone? How about yes? Say hi, YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Okay. So I started microdosing psilocybin. Psilocybin is a mushroom. It's a little bit magical, but microdosing is a very, 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 very tiny little dose. So little that it makes no effect in how you feel today. There's no buzz. Okay, you don't get like that. That's why it's called microdose. Okay. So what that does do, though, is it allows synapses to build faster and better. It allows certain parts of your body, your brain, to communicate to each other that weren't communicating before. So that communication allowed me to have memories that I had blocked. Ooh, that's heavy, isn't it? And those blocked memories were the things I had to release out of my body. Okay. That was step one. Okay. Releasing. Kitty, can mommy finish what she's doing? No. What do you need? You want a treat? Okay, come on, let's get a treat for you and then I'm going to finish, okay? Watch, watch, watch. Ready? Come, come, come. Okay. Okay, on your mark, get set. You're not going fast enough. On your mark, get set. Go. Good job. You're a smart kitty. There's some more for you. Okay. So, sorry about that. Obviously, if you have a cat, she's the ruler of your life. Okay, so releasing out of my body my childhood. Let's just start there. Childhood, okay? This was the beginning of grief and mourning for things that I knew but I didn't understand yet, okay? And I was finally able to cry about certain things, okay? So just like about the doctor and how I found out, actually, I blocked that memory, and how I found out was absolutely detrimental, a whole other video. But nonetheless, once I was able to release some of that stress from my body, I was able to start being like, okay, what else is happening in my life that's causing me so much stress that it constantly induces migraines? Okay, so I hated my job. I hated it. I was so good at it, but I absolutely despised it. It hurt my body. It made me tired. I didn't like it. I was a barber, okay? And I was really good at it. I was excellent at doing haircuts and shaves and talking to people all day, but my body couldn't stand it. I was like this. I had a hard time. I was getting frozen shoulder. Couldn't get my shoulder to go down. I was like 33 and I was in unbelievable pain all the time. Like, that's not normal. That is not normal, okay? So I took note of that. My job is stressful, okay? I inventoried my friends. I noticed I didn't have friends that were very nice or very supportive. I noticed that there was things in my life that had to be removed, separate relationships from men I was dating, who I was like doing the deed with, okay, all of those things. And I started to remove. Let me tell you what happened. In this 18 months, remember, I was waiting for a doctor to call me. She called me to confirm the appointment approximately 3 months. So that would have been at 15 months, okay? So it took me 15 months to get through all of this stuff, to release, to figure out my stress, to realize my job sucked, to realize I have shitty friends, to realize that microdosing is allowing me to realize a lot of these things. And I said to the lady, I don't want the appointment. Give it to somebody else. And she said, what? You've been waiting for a year and a half. And I said, yeah, well, I went from having migraines 6-7 days a week to having them maybe once a week or less. And I'm continuing to monitor, but you know, I've figured out all of these things. And she said, wow, I'm really sorry that we can't study people like you. Just drives me bananas. It drives me bananas, guys, because people have this idea in the world that Canada has this unbelievable healthcare, and it just sucks. Anyways, whatever. Okay, so now I'm on the up and up. Okay, I'm like figuring it out. So this was, how many years ago was that? So about 12 years ago. So this would have been like 10 years ago that I started to actually figure out what was going on. But that doesn't mean it just went away. Like, I had to keep removing stuff and recognizing triggers, recognizing how do these triggers relate to the root causes that I need to communicate to myself. Okay. And what I did was I started building an extremely healthy lifestyle. So I'm not like, you know, I don't take supplements. I'm never going to sell you a supplement. In fact, I pretty much disagree with the supplement idea, but whatever. That's a whole other video. But what I did do was I quit my job and I went after a dream I had for most of my life, which was to become a wedding officiant. I sold my house and I moved to a place that I had a lifestyle I'd always wanted, which is a cottage lifestyle, okay? Living in the country, I also knew would change my food and would change my community. That changed my life completely. What I consumed in terms of music, in terms of what I watched on TV, I changed. I stopped watching scary movies that induce anxiety. I stopped watching murder mysteries that induce anxiety. I literally watched the Care Bears for like a year. And that might seem silly, but it's just like, it was just feel good, happy vibes that brought me to a place of like, yeah, I'm not stressed out because I just watched TV. Okay. So today I'm 41. knock on wood, I almost never get migraines anymore. And when I get them, they're so obvious what I did to myself to get that migraine. I stayed up too many nights in a row too late and ate like shit. I'm a firefighter. I'm a volunteer firefighter. Some fires make me exhausted, which can cause a headache. Like, honestly, like, oh my God, some fires are terrible. Um, and other little things like my period, for example, it's typical in my life anyway that when I get to the end of my cycle, so when my period is going to start and my estrogen drops and my testosterone goes up, this is the normal process. And for most women will get a headache. I am more likely to get a migraine, but I'd like to say that the severity of the migraines I get today are pretty much incomparable to what was happening to me before. Okay. Like sometimes I'm like, oh man, this is nothing. Like I could still get up and drive and go pick up the thing I needed because I'm not nearly taking the hit that I was. Okay. So what is the main thing here? I don't want you to think that microdosing was the thing that changed my life. Excuse me just for a moment. Go ahead, mama. Let's see that there. Okay, microdosing was a very tiny part of it. Microdosing just helped me realize the deeper things that were the root cause. Okay, I don't do microdosing anymore. I haven't consumed anything really that's from psilocybin or psychedelics in a couple of years now because I don't feel like I need it anymore. Okay, I also want you to understand that figuring out the root cause can be really hard because, like, for me, these were things that I blocked out, but they're also from a portion of my life that we're unlikely to remember anyway. Most people don't remember before they were 4. That's totally normal. So I was dealing with something that my body knew, but myself did not. Okay. And then there was added stress, like different things that came from my family life or whatever. So I started to remove them. So what I'm telling you right now is that the way that I cured my migraines was I removed toxicity, period. Okay. Toxic people, toxic relationships, toxic jobs, toxic fragrances, toxic food, toxic anything. And now I'm like living the best life. Like I'm so grateful every single day. One more thing I want to add to this, and I want to do a video on just this, and I will, but I also started to give love to my body. Okay. I didn't just eat better. I didn't just work out more. What I literally did was I would spend a couple minutes every day and say, body, thank you. I'm so grateful I have you. You're such a good body. I know that you're not just having migraines for fun because you don't like them. You're trying to tell me something, and I'm doing everything in my power to figure out what you want me to know. And the more I did that, the more I was able to figure things out. And the more you love your body, the more your body can respond in kind. Because let me tell you, when I was going through this, I wasn't very nice to her. I'm like, fucking body, why are you acting like this? I hate you. You're stupid, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, that's not the case. Your body is trying to tell you what's going on. Your body's trying to tell you, hey, something severely bad happened and we need to release it out of the body, okay? And when I say release, just think, okay, think how when you're happy and you're excited, it's automatic. You're going to put your hands up in the air and you're going to be like, yeah, and you're going to jump and you're going to like, yeah, and you're going to yell and scream out of happiness. Anger and sadness and grief have to be removed from the body in the exact same way. It's just the actions are slightly different. If you're angry, you're going to yell. If you're sad, you're going to cry. If you're grieving, you are going to sit with your thoughts and bawl your freaking eyes out and let it all out of your body. That's what you have to do. That's what it means to feel is to heal. And to feel was to heal my migraines. Okay. I want to remind you, I'm not a doctor. Okay. I'm just telling you what I did and how I saved my own life from being a migraineur with a disability to becoming a person who teaches, who loves their life, who has a great quality of life and is living out their dreams. Because I know you can do this too. I want to help you if I can. So if you have questions, please, please, please put them in the comments and I'll do my best to direct you to things that I tried. I don't know if they're going to work for you, but worst case scenario, you don't take a bunch of pills and you figure something out about yourself. Great. Phenomenal. That's probably going to bring you to where you need to go. As always, friends, I want to remind you this video is sponsored by absolutely nobody. So please, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It certainly helps me get my videos out there and it helps me pump out more videos for you. I'll see you in the next video. And I think the next video, we're going to talk about how to learn to love your body. Thank you so much for being here.